everyone, great to be with you. And I've got a question for you today. And the question is, who enjoys a birthday? Do you like birthdays? Do you like celebrating them? Do you like whether it's your birthday or the birthday of friends or family, participating in the celebrations that take place? I know I do. We have lots of things that help us celebrate birthdays. I've got here with me today the kind of bag that sometimes people give presents to each other for their birthdays in. And this says all sorts of good words that we associate with birthdays. Happy birthday and celebrate and gift inside. And these sorts of things really help us to make birthdays a special day. And this Sunday coming up, the 23rd of May, so when you're watching this, it might be before the 23rd or it might be just afterwards, but the 23rd of May this year is a special day for Christians because that is the day when the church celebrates its birthday. Now, I don't know if you've ever thought that the church might have a birthday even, because some people, when you think about the church, you think, oh, it's the building, it's where we go to worship God. But actually the church means first and foremost, not the building, but the group of people who want to worship God and follow Jesus. The church is the people. And there is an occasion in the church's story when the church comes to life, when the good news about Jesus starts to spread and people start to form themselves into the body that we now call the church. So I'm going to tell you that story about the church's birthday, how the church came into being. Now, if you know the story of Easter, you'll remember that was at that point in the story, that's when we remember that Christians remember Jesus' death on the cross, but that he was raised from the dead. He came back to life and he appeared to his friends, and they were amazed at this thing that had happened that meant that Jesus had conquered death and that the world was changed forever. And that is what we call the story of the resurrection. And after his resurrection, Jesus spent a few weeks with his friends to help them understand all these amazing things that had happened and what it meant for the whole world. He told them that they were to go and tell other people about everything that had happened and to teach them about Jesus and about how to love him and to follow him. After Jesus had come back from the dead and after a few weeks of spending time with his friends, Jesus said to his friends that the time had come for him to leave them. And he told them to go back to Jerusalem and to wait there. And he said that at the right time, God's Holy Spirit would come and give them the power to do all these things that Jesus had told them to do. And then, as they watched Jesus, he blessed them and he was taken up to heaven. What an amazing thing to happen. The disciples, of course, were astonished and they were looking up at the sky, watching Jesus disappear and wondering what this all meant. And then suddenly 2 angels appeared and said, "Why are you standing looking at the sky? Jesus has been taken up from you into heaven and will come in the same way as you saw him go." So the disciples then remembered all that Jesus had told them to do, and they did what he told them. They went back to Jerusalem and they waited together, and while they waited, they prayed. And whilst the disciples were waiting and praying, thousands of other people gathered in Jerusalem. They'd come to celebrate an important festival called Pentecost. And they came from many different countries and spoke many different languages. Jerusalem was heaving. And suddenly, whilst the disciples were gathered together and were praying together, gathered in a room, something happened. There was a sound like the rush of a violent wind that filled the whole house. And what looked like tongues of fire appeared and settled on each of the disciples. Just as Jesus had promised, the Holy Spirit came and filled each one of them. And suddenly all the disciples found that they were all talking at once, and they were all speaking foreign languages they didn't realise they knew. And there was this huge noise and din, and they spilled out from the room onto the streets. And because there was such a noise and cacophony, people rushed to see what was going on. And they realised that they could hear the disciples talking in their own languages. And they said, "What's going on? How is it that we come from so many different countries and yet we can hear you talking in our languages?" So Peter, who was one of Jesus' closest friends, stood up and spoke to the crowd. And he said, "This is what the prophets told us in the past would happen. This is all part of God's plan," he said. "God sent Jesus to set right everything that's gone wrong in the world, and he was killed for it. But God raised him to life because death could not hold him. We know that this is true because we saw it for ourselves. Jesus is the Lord." Peter's words were so powerful that thousands of people believed what he'd said. "What should we do?" they asked him. And Peter answered, "Ask Jesus to forgive you for the wrong things you've done and be baptised in his name, and you too will receive the gift of the Holy Spirit." And on that day, about 3,000 people did just that. They believed what Peter had said. They said they were sorry for their sins and they were baptised. And that was the start of the church. So Pentecost is really a special day for Christians. We all have our own individual birthdays, but we also have this other birthday, the day that people started to hear the message about Jesus and choose to live their lives in his way and follow the things that he taught. As I've already said, on our birthdays, we often get gifts. We are given presents. And we remember that at the birthday of the church, people were given the presence of the Holy Spirit. And it wasn't just a present for them then, it's a present for us now. We can't see the Holy Spirit, but we can feel it when we feel God is close at hand to us. We feel God caring for us or protecting us and helping us to make right choices and live the right way. So this Sunday, or any Sunday, if you're in church or near a church, you might remember that this all started 2,000 years ago on the birthday of the church, on that first Pentecost. And if you're nearby, you might wave at the church and say to everybody there, "Happy birthday."